There's a shape in the sky beckoning me. There's a sound in the wild wind calling. There's a song to be sung for glory, and I feel that it's coming our way.
Bearing the marks of Christ's crucifixion on our bodies, with St. Francis of Assisi. Whenever we talk about salvation, we're talking about what theologians call theories of atonement. And it's important to know and understand that theories of atonement are just that. They're theories. They're not official doctrines. They're not core beliefs in Christianity. They are simply a way of understanding the salvific power of Christ's incarnation, crucifixion, and resurrection. We say, for us and for our salvation, he came down from heaven, became incarnate, was crucified, buried, died, and rose again. We believe that the crucifixion, the incarnation, the resurrection are indeed salvific, but there's no agreed upon understanding as to how they are salvific. We only have theories. And that's the other important thing to notice, is that it's not just one theory, it's multiple theories. It's a variety of theories. And one saint who can help introduce us to the variety of theories of atonement is the Poverello, the little poor man from Assisi, Saint Francis. Perhaps the most beloved saint of all. As a young man, Francis fought in a battle against the neighboring town of Perugia, where he was captured and imprisoned for almost a year until his father, Pietro Bernardone, paid his ransom. Francis understood on a personal level how someone else's sacrifice and payment, namely his father's, led to his own liberation, his own freedom. In Matthew's Gospel, Jesus said, "I did not come to be served, but to serve and to give my life as a ransom for many." In the same verse in which Christ identifies as the diakonos, he explains that he gives his life as a ransom. Theologians have understood this as Christ paying a ransom to the devil who held sinners captive because of their sin. When Christ suffered on the cross, he bore the punishment that the devil demanded of all sinners, thus releasing sinners from bearing the punishment themselves, thus paying the ransom. In the 12th century, St. Anselm of Canterbury felt that this theory of atonement gave too much power to the devil. So he articulated another theory of atonement in which God, not the devil, demanded the punishment for sinners, since sin offended God's honor. This made some sense within the feudalistic context of the time, but has recently become less popular as critics say it portrays God as an abusive father, demanding punishment from his children. Brutal punishment, eternal punishment. This is known as the satisfaction or penal substitutionary theory of atonement. Many evangelicals have mistakenly upheld this as not only a core belief of Christianity, but also as the only way to understand the meaning of the cross. And it's not. It's just one among many. While the crucifixion of Christ was indeed vital to St. Francis, who bore the marks of the crucifixion on his body in the stigmata, he seemed to understand the cross and the wounds of the cross as an extreme expression of Christ's poverty and self-giving and self-emptying, kenosis is self-emptying, kenotic love, which Francis emulated powerfully in his own life. In this way, Francis seemed to adopt theory of atonement known as the moral exemplar theory, championed by Peter Abelard, who believed that Christ's death was a demonstration of God's love, inspiring others to live lives the way Christ lived his, even to the point of death on a cross. So bearing the marks of Christ is a way of expressing and embodying the self-giving, kenotic, self-emptying love of God in our lives. Finally, towards the end of his life, St. Francis emphasized the salvific power of the Incarnation and the theory of atonement that teaches us, as St. Athanasius did, that God became human so that humans can become at one with God, thus emphasizing the at-one-ment of atonement. Francis did this by celebrating the feast that we Anglicans and Episcopalians celebrate best. One theologian said that each major denomination could be associated with a major feast day. Eastern Orthodox with Easter, Pentecostals with Pentecost, Catholic Church and Lutherans with Good Friday. But for Anglicans and Episcopalians, our feast day is Christmas. And St. Francis loved Christmas. In fact, he instituted a tradition that we celebrate today, 800 years later, the tradition of the live nativity scene. He did this a few years before he died, when he was 41 years old, in the town of Greccio. And if you visit Greccio today and you go to the Chapel of the Crib, you will see a fresco of the first traditional live nativity scene, with St. Francis kneeling beside an Italian baby who played the role of Jesus. In this fresco, St. Francis is dressed in a dalmatic, the vestment worn by deacons. St. Francis of Assisi was ordained a deacon. He wasn't a priest, he wasn't a bishop, he was a deacon. And he understood the salvific power of Christ's ransom, substitution, moral example, and incarnation. The incarnation, which not only compels us to do the diaconal work of pursuing peace and justice for all people here and now in this incarnate world that we live in, but also the incarnation invites us to experience God's loving presence in our human flesh, which St. Francis endearingly called Brother Ass. And the incarnation also invites us to experience God's loving presence in the bread and wine made holy, which happened to be the most pressing issue for Francis in his final words to his followers. It was not poverty, it was not obedience, it was about proper reverence for the Eucharist, which Francis, as a deacon, served to God's people for their salvation.